1,000 days ago, Russia invaded Ukraine and started killing Ukrainians. Since then, much has happened. Vladimir Putin has gotten the country into big trouble. Russia is the most sanctioned country in the history of humankind. It's been sanctioned and isolated from the rest of the world, economically, socially, athletically, scientifically, culturally, in any possible way. Russia has become a pariah state. But all that is far from the biggest, the worst problem Russia is facing now. That problem is what is happening inside regular Russians. I call it the moral degradation. The morally degraded country is facing darkness in the future. Howdy, howdy everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will find here lots of truth, lots of common sense and logic. You will not find BS, lies, or propaganda. You will also find emotions, because I am a human being after all. You will find lots of emotions. It's one of those streams. 1,000 days. That's a scary number. I'll be talking about Russia today a great deal, but this is really about Ukraine. Ukraine is a victim of Russian aggression. The only thing Ukraine and Ukrainians are guilty of is trying to break free from Russia, Russian influence, and desiring to be free, to decide their own lives. Ukrainian people are wonderful, nice, kind, welcoming. And for the past 1,000 days, they get bombed and blown up every day. Their cities, towns, and villages get razed. In Russia, it's called liberating. Ukrainians are killed every day. My country is doing it. My people are doing it. I know that saying, please forgive us, doesn't really cut it any longer. It's just, I don't know what else to say. And it looks like out of 146 million Russian people, Russian citizens, I am the only Russian asking for forgiveness. I'll say it again and again and again. I'll be saying it over and over again. Ukrainians, if you are seeing this right now, if you're hearing me, please forgive us for 1,000 days of this nightmare. Now, to Russia. What is happening to Russia these days is a catastrophe. My channel is called Inside Russia, and its content mirrors the name. I monitor and document the demise of what used to be Russia. But I'm not just a bystander. I'm not a journalist. I'm not cold-blooded scientist, social scientist. I'm a regular Russian man, father, husband, and son, who was born and raised in Russia and spent most of life there. I traveled a lot and lived in other countries. I lived outside Russia for 12 years in the USA, in Uzbekistan, and in Ukraine. And guess what? Every single time I returned to my country, Russia. Not because I was forced to, but because I was willing to. Because I loved it. Seeing the world, a great deal of world, it allowed me to compare Russia to other countries. And I saw Russia's numerous imperfections, numerous faults. There are plenty of those, Despite knowing that Russia was far from perfect country, I returned there every single time because I loved it. I wanted my children to be raised in Russia. I wanted their native language to be Russian. I wanted them to soak Russian culture in. What kind of proof of love to the country do you need other than that? I consider myself a true patriot of Russia. It's just the country that I love doesn't exist any longer. Russian people I knew do not exist any longer. I have been documenting the demise of Russia, but I just don't look at it and write about it and stream about it and film about it as a bystander with no emotions. My heart hurts and bleeds while I document. Russia has been going through a transformation, but it's also been transforming me. This is why I have the right to say anything I find necessary, because I'm a part of the transformation. In the beginning of the stream, I said that Russia is hit hard, but has, and has many different problems. The sanctions are running the economy down. I call it the economic tsunami, the perfect storm. The sanctions are preventing Russians to be a part of this magnificent world that we live in. Russian people have been excluded when the USSR, they were excluded when the USSR was still alive. Russian people briefly received an opportunity to be part of the world and were welcomed to the world in the 90s and in 2000s. And now they have lost this opportunity again. And all of that is not Russia's biggest problem. Everything can be fixed. Economy is actually easy to fix. All economists know exactly what to do to fix it. Economy is not rocket science. Everything else can be fixed fairly easy and fairly fast. The world is full of wonderful people. They will forgive if Russians repent and change and show that they changed. But what cannot be fixed easily are morals and values. In the last 1,000 days, Russian society has been undergoing a process I call degradation of morals and values. Degradation of conscience, degradation of view of the surrounding world. In my opinion, the degradation began in the first term of Vladimir Putin's presidency, a long time ago. It was slow and almost invisible at first. Government's favorite tactic, it's called stepping stones. And the degradation intensified over the years. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, the degradation kind of erupted. All masks were taken off and thrown off. The analogy here is a person who suppresses his violent nature being among good people, pretending to be nice. But a point in time comes when he shows true nature and becomes tyrant. A similar thing has happened to Russian people. Not to all. There are still some decent people remain in Russia. But it has happened to the absolute majority. And this is what I want to talk about in details. In my opinion, degradation of society is measured by how people behave. After the start of the war, Russian people started behaving differently, showing off patriotism, imitating patriotism, indoctrinating all people, including young children, as if Putin is going to live forever and he's building a foundation of a country for centuries to come. When the war started, numerous sanctions were placed upon Russia, and they affected Russian elites first. And the talk back then, in the spring of 2022, in the summer of 22, was, look, it's Putin against the elites now. And the elites are hurting. They're losing money. They're sanctioned. They're thrown off from the West. Therefore, they will conspire and consolidate and overthrow Putin soon, because he stands in the way of their money. Well, guess what? 2.5 years later, that couldn't be far from the truth. All the elites obey Putin now. All the Siloviki, the government agencies, armed and empowered to use violence against Russian people, regular Russian people, obey to Putin. They sold out in exchange for high salaries and personal power over people. What's interesting, most regular Russians who suffer a great deal because of the war, because of Putin's policies, because of what he's doing to Russian society, they obey to him too. Russians very quickly, after the USSR broke apart, Russians very quickly became consumers in capitalistic sense, in capitalistic world. But they never became citizens. They started changing, but along came Vladimir Putin and his gang and pushed Russians back into totalitarianism. Russian people now don't value turnover of power. They find it normal to have the same president for 5 terms. They have a culture of a strong man, and they love it. Even though strong men in Russia always abuse their power and abuse people. The very same strong men loving people, you know. Russian people have lost empathy for others. Empathy to others doesn't exist any longer in Russia. They're not empathetic to anyone, including themselves. It seems as if they don't love anyone. They don't love themselves. Value of human life has plummeted. It's nearly zero. Violence has become new normal in Russia. Prisoners serving time for very serious crimes such as murders, pedophilia, cannibalism, rape, are pardoned and released from prisons for signing up to go to the front lines and kill Ukrainians. They serve for 6 months and pardoned and return home to continue do what they know best, murdering, raping, and doing other crimes. And Russian people accept that as if it is normal. Well, it has become the new normal to them. Imperial thinking got easily reactivated. Turns out that it didn't die with the death of the USSR. All of a sudden, Russian politicians started taking shots, talking of annexing Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Moldova. And regular Russian people, very nice, loving people in the past, they started supporting and hailing that idea of taking the former Soviet republics back. High-caliber politicians talking about it publicly, privately. Their telephone conversations get interrupted, get released, and they don't deny that they have plans. Yes, let's take them all back. Let's bring the USSR back. And it's not just the government. It's not just the politicians. It's good, loving, regular folks who live in Russia. And they started returning Joseph Stalin into regular life. constructing new monuments to honor him. Stalin, the dark vampire, the worst bloodsucker Russia has ever seen in 400 years. And many Russian people started worshipping him again and hailing him. Russian politicians, by their actions, have driven more than 3 million Russian people out of the country. Those who don't support the war, those who want change for Russia, those who disagree with what the politicians doing, those who don't want to get mobilized and ordered to go to the front lines and kill Ukrainians. Over 3 million people now. The best people, really. The cream of the crop. Those who have left, they have gotten out of control of Russian politicians, Russian state, and the KGB. And that has been driving the KGB and the authorities crazy. How is this possible that the Russians are out of reach of their power now? And you know what? They started trying to make lives of those who have left miserable, making new laws to confiscate their properties left in Russia for no good reason, forbidding them to disagree with the government while being abroad, forbidding them to speak publicly against Russia, basically forbidding them to have their own opinion, making them unable to earn any money in Russia, labeling them foreign agents and extremists, to strip them of all human rights. Well, I kind of expect that from Russian government, but you know what? What I don't expect is that good, loving Russian people started supporting, started singing along that song. They can't leave the country when the motherland is suffering. They can't leave the country when we are suffering. They must suffer with all of us, alongside of all of us. Them rats, they have left instead of being happy for us. Instead of saying, oh, look, at least 3 million Russians are free now. At least they can build their new lives. At least they can speak up their minds. Instead of being happy for us, they have started bashing on us and supporting Russian government that goes after us. Russian Eastern Orthodox Church has changed. It's a different church, really. I remember it from years back, and I compared to what it is now. I don't even know how to describe what has happened to it. Instead of telling, let me quote some of the priests of high level of Russia's Eastern Orthodox Church. Again, these are quotes. They're well documented. I have fact-checked them all. I swear. I will give you the names and more quotes of all these priests, popes. I'm going to make a separate live stream because I think that deserves a lot of attention, and people in the world ought to know what is happening in the Russian Eastern Orthodox Church. Again, these are the quotes. What is called sin? When we kill a person out of spite, and when we kill for love, it's not a sin. Do not arm Grad missiles without prayer. You arm every rocket, you insert every rocket and repeat, Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. So that mothers and wives would tell men, you'd better go to war. It's in a peaceful life, you will die and rot from your sins. You will rot uselessly and shamefully. But at war, at least, you'll die like a man. Many liberals will now say, no, even the ruler doesn't have the right to take life. We have been accustomed to this value for a long time, but the Holy Scriptures say exactly the opposite. If you have a favorable opportunity to die, do not hesitate to take this step, because it is not known whether you will have such another opportunity. Russia is an empire, and any empire strives for expansion, and we will have no peace until Russia establishes its protectorate over the entire planet. Again, I just quoted high-ranked popes of Russian Orthodox Church speaking publicly, preaching the parish. I will not comment. I have hard time commenting on this. If you know what to say, please do in the comments. I don't. Again, I will make a live stream later on Russian Eastern Orthodox Church. Please keep on tuning in. The scary part is that regular Russian folks, kind Christians, they go along with these popes. They approve what popes say, and they do as the popes teach them, preach them. This is a hard stream to make. I'm sitting and I did a lot of research. I did a lot of thinking in the past month. I had a lot of free time. And what I'm saying is 100% true. It's fact-checked, it's a lot of my opinions, but they're based on reality and the truth. But I still have a hard time believing myself. This is just so atrocious. Anyway, education. Degradation of morals, degradation of education. There's a true story for you. One of the members of the Breakfast Club, Tashkent Breakfast Club, told me this story quite some time ago. In August of 2022, that person, I'm not going to tell the name or gender, that person, one of co-owners of a company that does consulting, including consulting for the Ministry of Education in Russia. Well, they did consulting. They went to see a deputy minister of education, and they proposed. They made a presentation. They proposed a new approach to education. Basically, the idea was, let's change some things, and we will educate children more effectively. And the deputy minister told them, right there at the meeting openly, he said, look, our goal now is not to educate, but to indoctrinate. We will teach them patriotism. We will teach them the role of the state. We will teach them the values of Russian world. Education is up to their parents. As soon as the person heard that, he left the country soon after. Again, that is a true story, and education in Russia has changed a lot. I remember indoctrination. I was indoctrinated when I was growing up in the USSR. I was lucky because in the late 80s, in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s, we had perestroika, glasnost, and the Soviet educational system was becoming more liberal. The entire state was becoming more liberal. Now the process is very opposite. They are increasing the role of the state and they indoctrinate children more and more. They have introduced the lessons called the lessons of the important issues, where they basically tell children, starting with first grade, of the role of the state. They teach their angle, their approach to things. They teach show-off patriotism. And you can't refuse it anymore. If you refuse your child to attend classes, you will be talked to, warned, and then prosecuted. And they take it very seriously these days. The entire educational system has changed. Again, it's not about education anymore. I made a live stream quite some time ago, said war on Russian people, and I talked about education, how they changed it, and they started paying attention to focusing their attention on indoctrination. Now, what kind of values is that? Russian world values? Cancel culture. On February 24th, when Russia invaded Ukraine, we all were shocked. I don't remember one single Russian person who was not shocked. The very next day, on the February 25th, for the first time in my life, I started seeing cancel culture. Friends were canceling friends because Russian society split in two. There was a chasm, a crack, and it started growing. At first, it wasn't anything big, but it started growing. Some people went along with the Russian government, and most people, some were furious and some were just questioning and basically asking the question, what the hell, what do you think you're doing? Attacking Ukraine? Are you crazy? Okay. And I remember I went on Facebook, and for the first time in my life, I saw friends unfriending each other for their political views. But that was just the beginning. The chasm is huge now. Russian society has been split in two. Remember I said what I'm saying about degradation of morals and values does not apply to all Russians. It only applies to the majority, but there are some decent Russian folks left. My estimation, 20 to 80, 20% of decent and 80% of those who support the war. I could be wrong. That's a very subjective opinion. But that's what I have. A lot of famous people in Russia, in the first 2 days of the invasion, stood up and publicly condemned the war, the invasion. They called for immediate withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine and immediate ceasefire. A lot of performers, a lot of people in the theater world, in the movie world, a lot of musicians, actors, writers. Well, guess what happened to them? They have been canceled. In the 2 following years, they all have been canceled. Even if you stated your opinion against the war, against the government once, and it's on record, you are canceled by the state. Well, what is being canceled by the state? If you're a writer, your books are forbidden to be printed out and sold in Russia. All libraries of your old books that contained your old books must extract your books and get rid of them. Throw them into trash. Not one single publisher would touches you in Russia because they would get into trouble. If you were very vocal in stating your opinion against the war and against the regime, then you are labeled as a foreign agent and extremist. And it means that you're done in Russia. You cannot earn any money. You cannot move any money. You cannot have a bank account. Basically, you are zero in Russia. Most people who have been against the war, they have left Russia. They are in exile right now, myself included. And cancel culture is growing. And you know what? Russian people are going along with it. It is done with a silent agreement of Russian people. Same about the education system. Russian parents, the system has been transformed into something ugly with their silent agreement, approval. They don't stand up and protest. They don't say anything. They're either scared, or they don't care, or they approve. And this is, in my opinion, is degradation of morals and values. There has been a very strong opinion among Russian people that Russia has been surrounded by the enemies. This is the most insane BS I've ever heard in my life, because I actually have been outside Russia. I know who Russia is surrounded by. I know the neighbors. I know other countries. I lived in the USA, and Russian government claims that the USA is the root of all evil. The evil Satanists. They want to destroy Russia, to take the sovereignty away from Russia. It couldn't be far from the truth. The USA needs a strong Russia because it's afraid that Russia would team up with China, would fall under influence of China, and that would empower China a great deal, okay? But then it's such a sweet idea to sell to regular Russian people who have never been outside Russia that Russia is surrounded by the enemies, that all the problems that Russia has have been created by the West, by the enemies. Russian economy? No, it's not what Putin has done to it. It's not the policies of Putin's government. No. It's the enemies. They want, Russian people to be poor. And Russian people are buying it because they don't know better. And somehow they don't think. They don't think critically. They don't analyze. They don't ask questions. Again, I am among very few Russians who ask questions. That's why they didn't like me in school in the USSR, because I asked questions, and they don't like me now because I keep on asking questions. This has become more than knowing that Russia is surrounded by the enemy. It's become country's philosophy. It's become the national idea. It's us versus them. Who them? Well, them, we don't know who them are. The evil Satanists, the bad guys. We're Christians. We have two genders. We don't have LGBT, whatever people, I don't know how they're called. We are families. And we are light. We are bringing that light to the rest of the world. We're the last pillar of goodness and righteousness. Okay, this is what Russia has become. And it's really difficult to speak to Russian people, many of them, because they don't listen anything but that. They have become very aggressive. They're pushing this. I can't say it's ideology. It's not. It's a surrogate ideology. Okay, but they're very aggressive, believing it and pushing it. Russian people not even scared of a nuclear war anymore. At least a great deal of them. It was the scariest thing for us in the USSR. Okay. And the Russian state, the Soviet state, it was the main idea. We're peaceful people. We will never start a nuclear war, no matter what, okay? Because we are for peace. We are for, equality and so forth, for friendship. Now they're saying, hey, if we are suffering, we might as well end it for everyone, okay? We are not afraid to start it. We'll show them. This is probably the biggest thing that I don't understand about Russian people these days. This is what Russian people have become. I call this process moral degradation. I probably could even go further in telling you of other areas of life in Russia, but I think what I've said is big enough. Now, do Russians have a chance to change? I think so. I think they do. And I'm simply basing my opinion on the examples, historical examples. The Germans changed after World War II. And the Russians changed. We changed after the USSR fell apart. Or we actually started changing. I saw one example. I read about Germany. I read that it took Germany quite some time, and I witnessed that change in 91. I witnessed it myself. I was 16 years old, and I saw the old country fell apart and the new born. I lived through it. What I think is going to happen is Russian people, after things will change drastically, kind of the same way they changed in the USSR, and they will, because nothing lasts forever. No one lasts forever. Vladimir Putin in his 70s right now. Sooner or later, he's got to go. And things will change. And I think that Russian state will crumble as a card house. You know what's going to happen? The very same thing that happened in 1991. And I saw that. And it was kind of funny. It's not so funny now, but back then it seemed funny. The country full of communists one day, and the next day everyone wakes up in a new country, and all of a sudden it turns out that there are no communists. No one liked communism. Everyone was against communism, even if they were members of the Communist Party and did things not very nice, No, they were against it. In Russia, we call this process changing shoes. And in 91, everyone changed shoes. Was one person yesterday and woke up and was completely another person, and no one knew their old self before the collapse of communism. It wasn't as if it wasn't them. Okay, if it was somebody else. I think the very same process will happen this time. Actually, I read that Germany went through the very same process. As soon as Germany lost and capitulated, the World War II ended. The next morning, the country, the Nazi country, all of a sudden didn't have one single Nazi in it, okay? So it's kind of the same process. I've seen it. I think that in order for Russians to change, I don't have the recipe. I simply don't know. I've been thinking about it for quite some time. I think that for Russia to change and for Russians to change, they must realize what they have become. They must repent. They must turn to God, real God, God that who is inside of our hearts, right here, you know, not that God who is in Russian Eastern Orthodox Church. I don't even know what God they pray to, okay, but God that is with each one of us in our hearts, okay, and it's incredibly how fast we have lost our values and morals. 2 years. They have degraded in 2 years. I think that the process of building up morals and values is going to be a very long and painful. I hope that I showed you, told you something interesting about Russia today. This is how I see Russia. Again, this is my position of a regular Russian man, father, son, and husband. Not a social scientist, not a journalist, nothing like that. Just a regular guy who loved his country, and his country died in front of his eyes. Before I turn the live stream chat on, and I want to invite everyone to participate and let me know what you think. I want to say thank you for not turning away from me, for me being Russian. Quite a few people have, actually. It's become really difficult for us, those who have left Russia, to travel. And a lot of people turn away from us, no more, no less. It's very disheartening because they associate us with Russia and the Russians who are inside Russia, and they associate us with that degradation of morals and values that is happening. I dare to say that we're different here. We have left the country and we're not coming back just for the very same reason. We don't want to be associated with that madness happening in Russia. I want to thank you all for not giving up on me, for tuning in, for sending messages, for being friends, for sending prayers and sending loves. Friends, thank you so much. This community has been a life changer. I feel that I receive so much more than I give. And you have my word, I'll be giving as long as I can physically. I will be researching, monitoring, and sharing every single day. I will be making Russia more understood and more informed for you. Thank you so very much. Again, let me know what you think in the comments, in the live stream chat, and if it's over and you're watching it later, let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much. Live stream chat is on. I would like to thank the moderation team, Lorna, Mami K, Bob S, Harry Potnan, Amir Fazat, and Dirk. Thank you, friends. And I want everyone to know that Inside Russia has the best moderation team ever in the world. Thank you. And I would like to thank you, the ones who are here, for coming, for, again, being with me and being a part of Inside Russia community. I think you're a lifesaver to me. Thank you. If you want me to notice your comments easier, please put it in all caps and put Inside Russia after that sign, so it's highlighted in large orange box. Much easier for me to see. Thank you. Let me change a few things here. So, folks, what do you think? Do you see the degradation of morals and values in Russian society, or do you think I'm off? English, please. We don't accept any other languages. Thank you. Thank you, friends. I see familiar faces. Thank you for coming. Terry, do you think people will change or put back on the masks? Well, just like I said on the stream, the first step will be they will put on the masks. Just like Germans did in 45, just like Russians did in 1991. And actually, Russians did it more than once. They did the same thing in 1954 or 55. When Stalin died, there was such a cult of personality of Stalin. And then sometime after, everyone started speaking against Stalin, saying how terrible he was and things like that. So Russians did it more than once. So initial action will be to put the masks back on, but if they do that and they stop there will be no good future for Russia and Russian people, because it all will come down to another situation like we're having right now. Like I said, they need to realize what they have done, what they have become. They need to repent, and they need to look into their hearts to find real God, to find goodness, to find, truth. And only after that, Russia might have a chance. Leitmotif for me, I think the population has Stockholm syndrome. Interesting thought. I'll think about that. Derek, I have friends in my city who are very sad and are Russian, are ashamed, and seem to be cast out and treated differently. Well, I know. Welcome to my world. The underdog, capital letters do make difference. I'm seeing your message right now. I do not have anything in orange background, just Inside Russia highlighted. Again, the underdog, thank you, and I'm seeing your message. Elsha, constant fear does a lot of damage to the human heart. It damages people of any kind. That's true. But you don't have to live in fear all your life. You are a free spirit, you free mind, a free person. You can go along and live in fear, or you can eject yourself from fear. So I know many people, thousands of people who they don't live in fear any longer. So it all comes down to a conscious decision by a person. Elsha, I have an example, story, an example. No, it's like an example for you. I fled Russia in September of 2022. And my first thought when I came to Uzbekistan was many members of my family and friends will follow me soon. And the first thing I did, I started looking for a large apartment. And I found one. This is the one I'm sitting in right now. It's a very large place for any country, you know. It has 3 bedrooms, and basically it's large. Well, you've seen it. I've showed it before. Guess what? How many people have followed me? None, except for my family, my immediate family. And I offered everyone. I called and I said, look, I have a place in Uzbekistan if you want to leave Russia. And they didn't understand me. I said, we can't. What are we going to do in Uzbekistan? Our lives are here. You know, we can't change anything. We can't, you know, we can't follow. We can't. They made the decision to stay. They made the decision to live in fear. So it's a matter of choice. Chris S., howdy, good to see you. Lost the message. At the end of this, you will be able to hold your head high and say you did everything you could to love your country that no longer loved you. I'm sorry for all of this. First of all, thank you for coming, thank you for watching, and thank you for writing this. Thank you for your words, very kind words. I'll share this. You did everything you... Day one, I started documenting what was happening in Russia. Day one, I started speaking against it. Day one, I started making myself heard. One of the first thoughts in my head back in March, early March and late February of 2022 was, what will I tell my son when he grows up and in 20 years he will look into my eyes and ask me, Daddy, what exactly were you doing when this madness started happening? Okay? And I'm very proud myself right now because I will be able to answer that question with my head up, look into Michael's eyes and saying, you know what, I did everything I could. I fought, I was active, I was loud, I heard, I did things I can show for, I united people, I created communities, I connected Ukrainians and Russians and other things too. So that's, you are spot on, and I feel that way. I feel that, I am proud now. And I also feel that my country and my people have betrayed me. And when I say that to members of my family who were inside Russia, they say, well, that's not true. No one's betrayed you. No one's turned away from you. That is true. That is very true. This is how I feel. This is why I was forced to leave Russia, okay? All right. No U.S. politics, says Lorna. Folks, why would you want to discuss U.S. politics right now here? I mean, this isn't the place to discuss U.S. politics. If you want to discuss, probably there are other live streams and there are other platforms, but this is inside Russia, okay? There are rare occasions when I mention U.S. politics that affect Russia, but that it's in the perspective of Russia and what is happening inside Russia. So please listen to Lorna. No U.S. politics whatsoever. Kiwi, given a second chance, I'm grateful. I'm not sure what you mean. What second chance? Charles Decker, do you think that Ukraine after victory can and will play a major role in helping Russia find its democracy and freedom and help your people rebuild? No. I do not think so. I think that Ukraine and Ukrainians will want to have nothing to do with Russia whatsoever for a very, very long time. At least for one generation, perhaps for longer, for more, for 2 or 3 generations, okay? That's my honest answer to you. But really, ask Ukrainians. That's my opinion. Derek Martinez, thank you so much. God bless you. Max Master, thank you. Thank you very much. Garrison, when you describe Russia, you're describing what the USA is becoming. Friends, I have faith in America. I have faith in Americans, okay? Please, fix your country. Keep it to yourself, and this is your mission, to fix your country, okay? Do whatever you think needs to be done. Russia is not like the United States of America, trust me. You want to compare, go and live in Russia for 6 months, then come back to the USA, and then you'll have a right to say, well, USA is becoming, not even close. Not even. Montalbano, I have seen today an icon of Saint Stalin at the Russian Orthodox Church. I'm telling you. Koshkin Dom, am I wrong, or was the average Soviet citizen more critical and aware of the authorities' lies, samizdat, than the average Russian citizen is nowadays of the Russian authorities' lies? You're right. The Soviets were more aware, more critical. The Soviets didn't believe the lies of the government for the most part. And Russians are very different from the Soviets. This is a phenomenon. Thomas K. It's been a while. Thank you so much for coming, Thomas. Joao Marinos, how are people responding to the degradation of services and living conditions, especially those 80% that are supporting this madness? Very tough question, friend. They are definitely seeing the degradation of their lives, living standards. They're seeing prices going up. They're seeing decline in services, in the utilities. They're seeing much worse roads, things like that. A lot still support Putin. A lot, what the Putin is trying to do is kind of steer attention of them, Russian people, into the understanding that it's not Putin's fault. It's the government's fault. Putin is good, the government is bad. The government is full of liberal enemies of Russia. Russian ministers, Russian deputy ministers, though they're masked enemies of Russian people, they're true liberals. They're working from the West. And I think this is what's going to happen. The blame game has begun. Like I said a few streams back, Vladimir Putin has admitted that Russia is not well. Russian economy is not well. And the next thing, he will start pointing fingers. Whose fault? Nabiulina. Whose fault? The Minister of Finance. Whose fault? The Minister of Economic Development, And that works. That works with Russian people. John McLean, the actions of a person matter more than what country they're from. Thank you so much, John. Hope all is well with your dieting. But you're right, but still people are judged by where they come from. I have been judged by my nationality so many times. Trust me. It's not that easy. What you're saying is, I guess it's like perfect world scenario, but this isn't far from this is far from perfect world. I have felt attitude of other people. I'm not saying that happened like every day. No, it doesn't happen every day. But it's happened, okay? I felt attitude towards Russian people with my Russian skin, no pun intended. Mr. Jetty 89, I think this degradation is much older. How old? Well, what are your thoughts? Donald Omnidon 2000 Sudden. Junior, howdy, good to see you. I think the Japanese is a better parallel. Okay. You're right, sadly, says Beam. Pamela, I want to say I will never leave you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pamela. But then Peter said to Jesus, I will never leave you, and he did. How can I be better? We're all human, but I have a good intentions. Well, Pamela, you know what? I want to thank you so much for you have been with me and then with Inside Russia for 2.5 years now. So no matter what happens, I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so thankful for you being here every single day. So, this is all I have to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. PT Kustu, do you think Russia will face a rampant wave of diseases now that sewers rupture in Moscow? I'm not a doctor. I don't know how fast and easily the diseases travel through rupture sewers. Probably not, because when I was a kid, we played around rupture sewers all the time. Soviet infrastructure system was atrocious, okay? We didn't have electricity often. Our sewage pipes would burst, not in the apartments, but on the streets. We would have streets flooded with, the liquid with not pleasant smell. We played all around it. We jumped over it, and so not much happened. It was a constant thing. TJ, the old man I knew, he was a Finn, always said, Russians will never change. So far, he has been absolutely lost your comment. So far, it's absolutely 100% right. I believe this is exactly what he meant. Thank you, TJ. Very sad for me, as for Russian. You start to think about these things only when you get out of Russia, only when you have a chance to look at Russia, at your history, at the history of your country, your personal history, from afar somewhere. Because when you live in Russia, it's like you're blind. I never thought of it. I never considered looking into that. Okay, only now I start digging in Russia's past and analyzing this. And very sadly, I can't say that they will never change. Never say never. Our world is not constant and finite, meaning it will end, and things change all the time. And Russians also have a chance to change. God forgives us. No matter if we're Russian or Finnish or American, God doesn't care. And this is what I keep on saying, if you repent, if you realize what you've done, and if you turn to God, who's in your heart, then probably you change. I read a Hungarian novelist from 1850. His Russia looks like today's Russia. Mr. Jetty, could you please give me the name and the book? Would be interesting. Derek, my nephew Victor from Russia is coming to live with me soon. Bring in if you have family, any advice and prayers, welcome. So happy to see you better. Thank you. Thank you so much. Advice, well, let me... I'm putting down his name and his family for prayers. Any advice? I have advice to anyone. Work hard. Be true to your family. Take care of your family. Be free. Strive for freedom. And turn to God. And I think that's, well, this is at least my recipe for life, for any advice to anyone. That's advice to myself. Sow it and hope it grows. Irish butter melted, Irish eggs, cheese, and Irish mushrooms, omelette. Well, sounds good. John McLean, thank you so much. James Gum got a new, it's old book from Primakov called Russia and the Arabs. Know this book or Primakov? Well, of course I know Primakov. He's a famous Russian politician, Soviet and Russian. Any books like it more recent you recommend? Not a book like that. I think the author is Rafik Nishanov. He was from Uzbekistan and he was an ambassador. He was a former boss of Sergei Lavrov. Lavrov was starting out as a young diplomat under, I think it's Rafik or Tofik Nishanov. And his book is called about something, the trees always stay green. And it's about Soviet diplomacy. That's interesting. I read it a long time ago. So this old guy, I think he's still alive, actually. Or he died recently, but I don't even know. I don't remember how it's called exactly. Stefan Rutenberg, thank you so much. Your hope for Russian society is very limited. I wish it were different. I understand. I know, and this is why I made the stream. I want to inform you better. I want to share my opinion. I want you to see how I see what's happening in Russia. Okay, so thank you. Double K, hey from Lithuania. Every time I see a person from Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, or Poland, it warms my heart. Thank you for coming. I lost your message. I'm sorry. Gotta be wrapping up soon. Terry Carter, Bob John. I'm sorry, Double K from Lithuania. I lost it. Oh no. Double K. Can you please repeat your question? Duplicate it, because I can't find it. My stream jump. Terry Carter, thank you so much. Maroket Zelensky isn't. Ukraine is literally in a state of emergency, and yeah, it's fair to prolong the presidency. Let Ukrainians decide for themselves whether they want to prolong presidency, whether they want to cancel elections, or on the contrary, to hold another elections. It is it is the matter of Ukrainians. It's business of Ukrainians. It's the people of Ukraine to decide. That's it. What do we have to say about it? Nothing. Get to the chopper, 87. Take care and prayers to you and to the innocent. Love and the wives. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just Jimmy, 120,000 property in Russia, 28.4% over 30 years would cost 1 million. I think so. I think you're right. I think you're right. Is that true that Putin wears a man dress to his private church? Sam, how do I know? You're asking the wrong guy. Ask Putin. Hell Porter, I feel for your loss. At the minimum, I cannot imagine being without the US. Yet so many I know have left their homeland for opportunity, freedom, and peace. Regimes of right and left. It's a very personal choice, and it's a very tough choice, trust me. It's much easier to live in your country where you're surrounded by your people, your language, your culture, your history, your memories. To leave your country for good is... I don't even want to talk about it. It hurts so much. J Spike, thank you so for coming. Long time no see. There you go. Okay, from Lithuania. What do you think about Russian opposition abroad? Kara-Murza, Navalny, and recent events. They are not getting along. There is a lot of fighting in the Russian opposition. Yulia Navalny is not a politician. Kara-Murza, great guy, I like him. I like them all, okay? But they're just not getting along. There is no idea to unite, and they're not doing anything. That's what I think of Russian politician, Russian opposition. Kara-Murza is a star, definitely. I still remember him from early 2000s when they were taking over NTV, Putin's first step to get rid of the independent TV channels. And I remember how he was such a right person. He was acting right. He was acting with courage, with self-respect. He's just a great guy. He was young back then. The name is so big that I don't even know how to say that. Something skating. You're a solid cookie, Konstantin. I've never been called that before. Thank you. Your face little prettier than the last time I saw you. Oh yeah, my face, yeah, much prettier. One side of my face wasn't moving. That's trust me, it wasn't pretty. It was even less pretty off the screen than on the screen. Terry, stream made me sad. I'm sorry. We heard you sing recently. We'll be there karaoke with Konstantin. Okay, now the rule of Inside Russia in the live stream chat: when anyone has a birthday, okay, I sing happy birthday, so you will hear that. Haven't done that in quite some time, but you will hear that. And you want to join Patreon and get access to private live streams I do every Saturday is my way of thanking supporters. And I do singing there quite, well, more often than here. And I always warn before I start singing so people cover up their ears so they don't get broken. Aranka, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Terry, 1420, fine, odd, good Russian in comments. Not sure what you mean. Cheryl Wetley, better to say sorry, forgive me, is about the person speaking rather than the person harmed. Not sure what you mean. My understanding of English is a bit limited, I'm sorry. I saw another American family leaving for Russia, a new one. Pamela, how many American families are there in Russia? Well, I know the statistics. Yeah, like 1,400 in the entire Russia. How many Russian families are in the United States? That's just the numbers tell you the true story. Robert Ferguson, Constantine, you bared your soul on live stream. Thank you. I'm proud to call you friend. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, friend. You're absolutely right. I bared my soul. I made the decision to be open and public about how I feel, because that is, you can't understand inside Russia without me doing that. Okay, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I feel. I don't hide my feelings, and sometimes it's very, very tough. It hurts, and sometimes it's shameful because I'm ashamed of certain things. So thank you so much, friend. Friends, I think that it's time to wrap up. English breakfast. Thank you, English people, for the tea. I enjoy every sip of it. All right, friends, thank you. This is no more questions. Let's pray. I invite everyone to pray along with me. And if you're not religious, you know what? Very quickly, I'll tell you a story of my dad. He was not religious. He didn't believe in God until he was 49. He went through a very life-changing experience, and he became a believer. Moreover, he built a church with his own hands, and he was taking care of the church. And then he became a preacher. And for the first 49 years of his life, if anyone told him that he would be preaching in later years of his life, he probably would laugh. He was laughing at my mom, who went to church. So who knows? Life is a journey, and you never know what awaits you in the future. So please, join me. You don't have to call this a prayer if you don't like it to be called a prayer, if you are not religious. But please join us in sending good wishes and good vibes to people, good energy. You can call it whatever you want. Speak to the universe, To me, it's all the same. I don't look for God in church. I look for God in my heart, and there's love in my heart, and so therefore God is love, therefore there's God in my heart. So, and I am pretty sure it stands for you as well. So please join me. Thank you. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Thank you for our families. Dear Lord, please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful. Help us to raise them in a way that when they grow up and become adults, they will not fight in any wars that will make this world a better place. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine, stop the bloodshed. Country needs peace, and people need a break in peaceful life. Please reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those who are responsible and capable of making the decision, so they wake up from their lethargic sleep and make that decision to stop the bloodshed. Please reach out to every single Ukrainian who has been affected by this terrible tragedy, and may answer their prayers and make their wishes come true. Thank you. Please help my country. Assemble your strongest angels with sharpest swords. Assemble them into one big heavenly army. Have it led by Saint Michael. Send that army down to this earth to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country, who we know by their names and by their faces. Please send them where they belong. Please send your angels to help good Russians run the country, to make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Dear Lord, please help those who are traveling. Send them safe travels. Those who are asking for help and asylum, send good people their way. Please help those who are raising single mothers and fathers, raising their children, struggling, trying to make ends meet. Help those who are helping Ukrainians, and help Ukrainians who are currently under attack or from Russians' missiles, Russian weapons, or under threat, risk of the attack. Please send your angels to keep everyone safe. Dear Lord, I'm asking you to reach out and send your love and warmth to those who are sick, addicted, cold, hungry, homeless, jobless, depressed, losing their faith, feeling betrayed, crying, hurting, feeling alone in this world. Please reach out and touch the hearts, fill them with warmth, show them that you are right next to them, have not abandoned them, loving them, showing every step they take, and guiding them. Please help everyone in need. Dear Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to assemble here virtually and pray together, really, in reality, really. Thank you for everyone who's praying. Thank you for everyone who's watching us pray. Please answer everyone's prayer and make everyone's wish come true. Dear Lord, I would like to ask you for some people who need your help. They are Victor N. Larson and her daughter Hannah, Jeffrey S. and family, Alex, Mark, Tom W., J.R. McKim, Gabin with Gary, Lisa Kumrian, Harry, Terry, John, McLean, Linda Trombley, Paula W., Dennis, Jason, Susie, Tim, Dory, Rhonda, John, Taylor, Wayne, Dave, Don, Darla, George, Pamela, Meta, David, from Chernovtsi and his family, Life, Randolph, Grace, Dean Spooner and his church, Helena, Natasha, Michael, Jake, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Sergey, Ron, Liz, Koshkin Dom, Sandra, Mike and Mike, Petra, Joseph, Melissa, Jodes, Millie, Philip, Eileen, Victor, and I have the last name. Please help Dennis and keep Archangel Michael to guide him to safety. Please also help all the children from Ukraine who have been misplaced, separated from their families. Please help them to find their way back home and reunite with their parents. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you for giving me a chance to bare my soul in front of you. thank you for participating in the live stream chat, and thank you for praying with me. You're absolutely awesome and you rock. I am so grateful for this community, for you. I'm so thankful for YouTube giving this opportunity for us to virtually meet and communicate and become a real community through YouTube. Thank you so much. Again, you're awesome and you rock. I will come back tomorrow, and every single day after that, I'm back to normal daily streaming schedule. Please keep on coming back. And the last thing I want to ask you before I sign off is the usual. Please say out loud with me, as loud as you can, the following. Carthago delenda est.